A few months back, my old Toshiba laptop died on me. I'd been using that laptop since around 2015, and it was the only machine I had running Windows, so I found myself in need of a replacement. Although I generally prefer running Macs, I still needed something that was able to run programs in Windows, so I decided to look into getting a new computer. In the last couple of years, mini PCs have really exploded in popularity. One look on Amazon and you'll find a large number of brands that you've probably never heard of selling what looks to be the exact same system under their own brand. I found the form factor pretty appealing since I knew I wasn't going to be using the system away from home, but I had no idea where to start. I just knew that I wanted the cheapest possible system that could handle doing basic tasks without struggling. That criteria led me to the N100 CPU from Intel. Low-end chips from Intel used to be something that I actively avoided because they're notorious for their low performance. The N100 saw noticeable performance gains compared to previously released low-end chips, while also improving on power efficiency. Once I decided on the chipset, it was still a challenge because there are a lot of mini PCs released with the exact same chipset. After doing some more research, I ended up settling on the CHUWI LarkBox X 2023. I bought the LarkBox directly from their official website for $189, and I've had it for about 5 months now. It took a little under a week to arrive after being shipped directly from China. It came with Windows 11 Home Edition pre-installed, but I really would have preferred Windows 11 Pro instead. This seemed like an odd place to cheap out on. Similarly, the N100 processor supports up to 16 gigs of RAM. The LarkBox only comes with 12 gigabytes, and you can't replace the RAM either because it's soldered to the board. The LarkBox uses a 512 gigabyte M.2 SATA SSD, which can be replaced. 512 gigabytes seems to be about the norm for similar devices, and it was the minimum amount of storage that I was willing to accept. For wireless connectivity, it comes with Intel's AX101 wireless adapter, which supports Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. In the 5 months that I've been using the device, the connection has been stable and the speeds have been pretty good. The LarkBox has dimensions of 127mm by 127mm and a height of 49mm, or 5 inches by 5 inches and a height of 1.93 inches. At 400 grams, or a little under a pound, it's fairly light, but it's hefty enough to stay in place if the cables go off in odd angles. It's not the smallest mini PC I've seen, but it's not overly large either. The black and white coloring of the plastic case certainly makes it stand out, and I actually quite like this color scheme. I have noticed, however, that the case seems to be scratched rather easily, so if that bothers you, you might want to avoid this one. On the front, we have 2 USB ports, one USB-C port, a headphone jack, and the power button. I would have liked to see more USB-C ports rather than a USB-A because I've been replacing most of my devices for USB-C, but I can't blame them for only having one when that seems to be the standard for lower-end PCs. When the device is turned on, the power button is illuminated with a white LED, which can get really bright at night. Personally, I find it a little too bright, so I usually put something in front of it to block out the light. On the back, we have a port for power, 2 Ethernet ports, HDMI 2.0, DisplayPort, and 2 USB 3.0 ports. One thing to note is that the USB-C port is fully featured and supports data, video, and power through the port. That means that you can simplify your setup significantly. You can power your device directly or to the monitor itself, and then run a USB-C to C cable between them. The 2 devices will then share power and video through a single cable, as long as the cable is able to handle the power and data requirements. Not all cables are able to do so, so check the specs of your cable if it doesn't work. In my experience, it works pretty well, but I've had some issues with this function. The LarkBox can support up to 3 screens at up to 4K resolution at 60 Hz. I was able to get the video working over USB-C and HDMI, but I had issues with the DisplayPort on this device. I don't have any monitors that support DisplayPort natively, so I bought a DisplayPort to HDMI adapter in order to have 3 monitors running at the same time. Unfortunately, no matter what I did, I could not get the video to work through the adapter. I'm not sure how widespread this issue is or whether there's something wrong with the adapter itself, but I could only get 2 monitors working concurrently. One thing that's regularly overlooked is how loud the device gets. I keep just about everything in my room, which means it gets really annoying if the device gets too loud. Fortunately, the LarkBox is barely noticeable most of the time. It does have a tendency to spin its cooling fan up and down for seconds from time to time, which does draw attention to it, but when it's running continuously under heavy load, the noise just sort of fades to the background and it's really not that bad. So what do I use this device for? When I first got this device, I used it primarily with the TV in my room. I mainly used it to browse the internet and stream content, so I didn't have to deal with the terrible interface on the TV. There were dropped frames here and there when streaming 4K content, but not enough where it would be noticeable. I also used it as a media server for other devices on my network, and as a backup for the files on my MacBook Air, since it only had 512 gigs of storage. These tasks have been taken over by another device, which I'll cover in a future review. I use the LarkBox mainly for productivity. On one monitor, I have at least 10 or 15 tabs open at once in my browser, and YouTube running in the background. The other screen is dedicated for work. I'm usually typing out some documents or doing some light coding, and the LarkBox doesn't skip a beat. Productivity tools such as Office work flawlessly. For most basic tasks, I really don't require really high specs, and if I do find myself needing better performance, I can usually take care of it on my MacBook Air. As long as you temper your expectations and understand its limitations, the LarkBox is a pretty capable machine. There's a lot to like about this device. It's small, runs quietly, and has a good number of ports. Most importantly, it can handle most of the tasks I require of it without a struggle. It's just a shame that I haven't been able to get the DisplayPort to work at all, so I'm limited to only 2 monitors running at the same time. The cooling fan can be a little obnoxious at times, but overall, it's a well put together package. These days, you can find the LarkBox for a bit cheaper than what I paid for it, but even at $190, I still think it's a solid deal. If you're looking for a computer that can handle most of your day-to-day tasks, this is a solid choice. I hope this was helpful for you. Take care.